Welcome to another edition of the Sales and Marketing Power Hour with your host, Carol Morgan with Denim Marketing and Kimberly Mackey with New Home Solutions Consulting.
Percent business owners or principals, 27% in leadership and management. So we got sales people in the house, not surprisingly, and the sales number going up here. We got some sales leaders. So do we have any trades? I was hoping we'd get some trades people in. So I did advertise in some places. I wish I'd known about some of these groups that I researched and found through the process of doing this. Wish I'd known about them just a little bit earlier. So we'll keep that poll open. And Carol, I'm going to go ahead and hopefully, well, if I can get things to work here. Here we go.
You're going to kick us off.
Why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
All right. Well, I am Carol Morgan, based in Atlanta, Georgia, founder and president of Denim Marketing. We are a woman-owned firm. We are 24 years old this year, which is crazy funny. And, I started my company with the birth of my child. So I'll just tell you, I would have never believed 24 years ago that we would be as big as we are and as well known as we are. And it's just been a fantastic, fantastic journey. But so at Denim Marketing, we do quality content. So if you need content for social media, blogs, public relations, and I do mean traditional media relations by that, awards, website copy, any of that, give us a call. That's what we do.
So awesome. So, and I'm Kimberly Mackey. My company is New Home Solutions Consulting. And I like to say that I'm the person that people call when they need for sales to be the engine that drives the train rather than running it off the tracks. And by that, I mean, I go in and I help support you through the processes, the systems, all of that, put all the parts and pieces together. So I do training, I do speaking, and that's where people see me. But the stuff that I love to do is to go behind the scenes and help companies to grow and grow profitably. So if I can help you with that, and I'm so super excited about this program today. But pre-show we were talking a little bit about our history and our journey, and I shared with the ladies that the first builder that when I first got into home building over 2 decades ago, Carol and I both started, I guess, when we were babies. That's how that worked. But I became a director of construction kind of by default because the principal of the company that I was working for kept firing my directors of construction, and they literally told me to lay off my sales team, to send them home because we couldn't build all these homes. And I was like, oh, no, why don't we just figure out how to build all the homes? So I actually became the acting director of construction. So I like to say that this company was kind of boot camp for the industry because I learned I had to do all the jobs. So it taught me, it certainly shaped my career, but, going out into the field as a newbie in the industry, this young whippersnapper, and I was a girl on top of it. And I'm working with all of our rugged superintendents who were out there in the field. And I mean, they were just some amazing guys that I learned so much from. But it was such a great experience for me. And I think turned out to be a pretty good experience for them too, because we did figure out how to build these homes far more efficiently and get on a schedule. And then we were able to set ourselves up. So fortunately, I was able to hire another director of construction. So I could go back to my first love, which was the sales and marketing side of things, and not have to do both because there are only so many hours in a week. But it was a lot of fun. And I think it really impacted me going forward in, kind of dealing with this man's world that we're in. So I'm super excited about this conversation, ladies. And with that, we have our special guest that we have with us today. We've brought you powerhouses to come. So Alaina, please take it away and tell us about you and your journey.
Okay, happy to. I'm Alaina Money-Garman. I was employee number 3 at Garman Homes on the start of the sales team there. And like Kimberly, I've done every job there is between on-site sales to owner. And this is my favorite headshot I've ever taken because it was on the job site for the concept home, and I'm wearing zero makeup, unlike right now. And I'm so happy when I'm on site, and I wear a pink hard hat so people can find me easily because not many people wear a pink hard hat. And no, I love it. I think every time I'm on site, I'm just so full of gratitude for the position that I have, and for Garment Homes and all the people that work for us. We have 3 levels of female leadership at Garment Homes. We have a female division president, a female regional president, and I'm an owner. Very proud of that. And yeah, we have female construction managers, and very excited to share my journey and how I got here and how I got to meet Mollie and all of you and our crossover. So thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so excited that you're here.
Yeah.
So, and Mollie, last but definitely not least. So tell us about your journey and I'm pointing the wrong way. The house that she built.
So my name's Mollie Elkman, and I own Group 2. So we're a full service marketing partner for the home building industry and for builders around the country. And I got into the industry. I actually kind of was a baby in the industry when I got started. I'm a second generation business owner. So my dad had started Group 2, and I really spent my childhood visiting home builders, walking through models, really being out and exploring. And so I've been around builders my entire life. And I recently, I guess not that recently, 2 years ago, I wrote The House That She Built, which was inspired by an all-women build that was done by a professional women in building group in Utah. And it's really blossomed and created, more conversations around women and bringing in more women, and, very on topic for what we're talking about today. And it's just so nice to be in this industry where women lift each other up, because not all industries are that way. And I feel like, even growing up in the industry, like there was always a competitiveness around sales and marketing and consultants and people in the industry. And I really feel like we've broken through that. And I think we now have this like really supportive, collaborative industry. And I think that that's going to really help us thrive in the future. So thank you for having me.
And thank you for being here. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to credit Professional Women in Building too.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That collaboration that we have and that camaraderie. And, I don't, we don't even have a chapter here. I've been adopted in this group and kind of sucked into this group. And I got to tell you, some of my very best friends in this world have come from Professional Women in Building.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing and how it's grown. I know, Carol, you were a big part of that world, and, to see how it is transformed year over year, and the growth is pretty awesome to watch as well. So I'm sure we have a lot of PWB members on here.
I think we do. Yeah,
we do. Yes.
Well,
and again, that support, that positivity. Yeah. So.
And it's interesting, I guess, so much of the reason that I've done everything I've done within NHB is because of PWB and getting involved in that group at the national level, long before we even had a council here in Atlanta. But getting involved in that group and getting involved with Alicia Huey, who is our now current chair of NHB, and, Linda Hebert and Julie Bacon, and I could go on and on and on and on. But, that group mentors women and helps them to navigate the men's world that NHB has typically been. And, courtesy of them, I'm chairing my 4th committee for NHB, and I would have never done any of that if it hadn't been for them. So good stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm on my 2nd national committee of, one council and one committee, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the day when I can just go plug myself and play in the PWB world. That's going to be a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Yeah.
Last slide, and we'll turn the slides off. Our next Sales and Marketing Power Hour. I hope when you guys registered, that you registered for all of our events coming up. So we are going to be talking about AI and how the explosion of that and some of the different ways that you can use it that are not what you would think. So this is a marketing conversation. This is almost a revolutionary conversation. So it's going to be a bit of all of it. So I hope that you guys will tune in. And if you aren't yet a member of our Sales and Marketing Power Hour on Facebook, this is the conversation that goes on between the conversations. It's where you can go on and you can ask somebody anything. I crowdsourced videos this week. I wanted people to give me some commercials to use in the upcoming training that I'm doing. And like, you can ask anything in there. So I would encourage you to definitely get involved with that if you can. And now I'm going to just switch it back to turn the slides off. And our poll results, and then we'll take the poll down, is so most of our members, about half, are working directly for a home builder, but we have about 30% outside resources. So those support ancillary services that are out there. And most of our people are either in leadership, management, let's see, we've got sales leadership, and whatever other ends up being. So welcome to everybody, and thanks for participating in our poll.
They're Mollie's fans.
They're Mollie's fans, yes.
That's the others.
Oh,
my goodness.
So with that, Carol, you want to go ahead and start our conversation?
Golly, we've had such great pre-show conversations. I almost don't even know where to start, but I'll just throw this one out and you guys can dive in. Why is it so important to embrace women and other, underrepresented demographics in the home building industry? Mollie, you want to start?
Yeah. So with an audience of women here, I mean, I think we all have different experiences that have gotten us to where we are today. I especially, for my experience being a second generation business owner, I was brought into this industry by my dad, and a lot of the women that I've met who are in the industry were brought in from a dad or a grandfather or family business or something like that. And I have had an incredible career that I love so much. And the idea that other women wouldn't have that same opportunity because they don't have a dad to bring them into the industry, it's something we have to break. And the way we break that is through professional women in building, through sharing our stories, through getting out there and showing girls and women that you can have a really successful career in the housing industry.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's such a stereotype, I think, too. People think that, women can't do some of the trades jobs, and yet some of the barriers that are being broken in this industry are happening at that level. They're happening at not just the professional level and the white collar jobs. They're happening, out in the field and truly, driving the big equipment and swinging a hammer and climbing up on the roofs and being a field superintendent. It's amazing. It's almost not, we see women out there now, and it's almost like I'm not surprised to see them, but yeah, I'm still seeing them.
Right. Well, I mean, I've had people ask me if I know how to drive my tractor. Yes, I know how to drive my tractor. And when I'm driving my, most of y'all know I have horses. So when I'm driving my big Chevy Silverado crew cab, long bed with my giant trailer, 3-horse slant, extra tall, extra wide down the interstate, literally people will pass me and do a double take because they don't expect to see a woman driving this big rig.
I bet they do.
It's kind of funny, but it's the same thing in our industry. But I love seeing more and more women get jobs in the industry. I just helped a young lady. She'd gotten let go from her logistics job, in warehousing. And I started thinking, golly, that's an awful lot like purchasing or operations. So one of my home builder clients here in Georgia hired her. So I'm super excited to see where that goes. I think a lot of it's just helping us, kind of like what you said, Mollie, helping, them make the connections, us helping, plug them in where it makes sense, and changing the industry so it's not just 11% women. It needs to be more like 50% women, right?
Yeah, it needs to be 50.
Yeah.
And I love when we hear often, this generation, our generation, my grandfather, my father brought me into the industry, and I'm so looking forward to my mom.
Mm-hmm.
My aunt, somebody, it's not, that's the next, that's our kids, that's our kid generation. And that's why we do it. The representation
Absolutely.
is really important. And I think, to your original question, why is it so important? I think we have to reflect who we're building for, who we're doing this for.
Yes.
And women still make the majority of the decisions related to home ownership. And I wonder what that's like now with more broad spectrum gender identities. And I'd love to explore that more. And I think, I just think it's really important. I think it makes us better at what we do when we can include the perspective of the buyer more fully.
It's
Yeah,
also,
we didn't even oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
We didn't even get into the actual labor shortage. I mean, we have a real need for workers. So, when you think about that and you see such a low percentage is women, the way you solve a labor shortage is by finding those underrepresented communities, and women are the largest underrepresented community. So this is a natural, organic place to fill that shortage.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, Kimberly, you have some thoughts on that. Really, you talk about pie. You want to share your pie conversation?
Absolutely. So, because I do a lot of association work, I've had some pushback on this when I've talked about forming diversity and equity and inclusion committees and that sort of thing. And I get some, hey, I've worked hard for what I have and nobody's going to take it away from me. And I think that fortunately, I do believe that that's a minority of people who think that way. Because life is not pie and our industry is not pie. Our industry has infinite opportunities for growth.
Right.
And when we include people, they bring a different perspective. They bring a different history. They bring a different thought process. And we all know that just because we've always done it a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that's the best way to do it.
Right.
So we're bringing different ideas. We're bringing, that totally different perspective. And I know all of us have had that experience where something is designed where it doesn't really flow with how to maybe even, I've got an appliance. Let's start with I have a microwave that it looks cool because all the buttons are like hidden, right? But every single person who touches that appliance leaves smudge prints. Like this thing is the bane of my existence. It just drives me. And I'm like, I know that a woman did not design this because she would have thought that how much of a royal pain this thing was going to be to keep clean.
That's funny.
It's stuff like that, it just, if we thought it through from everybody's perspective, okay, so it's this clean aesthetic, but is it going to stay clean when you actually use it? And that seems like a silly example, but it's that process, I think, of just thinking about things different ways that make us better.
No, absolutely.
Am I alone? Am I on an island? I don't know.
No, you're not, but we do all like pie. So, I was going to go back to that and say apple, particularly with some, vanilla ice cream with it. We have
a great, you've updated that from your fruitcake thing.
I like your fruitcake. You need to send me the other fruitcake. It's good. That's a whole different conversation. Well, we have a great question in the chat. So, what would some of the bullet points we'd suggest? If you're talking to a young woman or even a young man about getting into our industry, what are some of those top level bullet points we want to make sure we mention? That's a good question.
We need you. We need you. Your perspective is valid. Your point of view is valid. Everybody was in a home. Everybody grew up in a home, hopefully, and everybody has a valid point of view. So
I like that.
Do not let yourself be talked out because you don't talked out of a dream that you have. If you don't see someone who looks like you or thinks like you, or find somebody who does.
Or somebody has to be first. Somebody always has to be first.
It's true. But find us. Like,
right. Yeah.
We'll help you.
It's important that everybody's opinion, everybody's qualified.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Find a place within the industry. It's a good industry. You can be very successful. You can make a very good living. You can do meaningful work, which is the dream, really, to have something you love to do and get to make a meaningful impact. I mean, that's being part of someone's home.
Right.
That's a sacred space. Like, let's not take that for granted. That's a pretty cool thing to get to do. So.
Yeah, I would also add it pays well. I think women make 92 cents on the dollar, and it's one of the smallest gaps in pay of almost any job, out there. So construction jobs pay well, whether they're white collar or, blue collar or swinging the hammer or whatever. So I would also point that out to women is that, because I look at that. I've been talking about equal pay for equal work since I was in college. I wrote term papers on it. And the fact that we're still sitting here, I'm sick of it. So anyway, help us.
there's a great living to be made in all of those. All of those jobs that you just named. You can be very successful, make a lot of money in white or blue collar. Like there's a lot of opportunity there. So if you're a school person, great. If you're not, great. Find your space within the home building industry. That's what I love. There's so few barriers to entering and finding your place.
Absolutely.
And find what you love. So I mean, if you're somebody who likes to be outside, who likes to work with your hands, you played with Legos growing up, you did Minecraft on, and all of those things because you like to see something from nothing. There's there, like Alaina said, there's just so many spaces. There's so many things where you can share your gifts regardless. I think that, the fact that we are still talking about what someone's gender, what they look like, what color their skin is, shouldn't matter in any of those things. It is really, how to share your gifts with the world or become an apprentice, or I don't know. It's just.
Yeah, I do want to add, so I am a huge believer in a long-term solution to the labor shortage. So when you're talking about education and getting in front of young people, age really matters. So the message you're going to have for elementary is going to be more like the house that she built. We're talking about STEM and getting kids thinking about playing in a sandbox and relating that to evening out, with an excavator. We're talking about that kind of messaging. As they get older, that messaging gets more advanced. So talking more about circuits and, connecting and all these different things. So I am a big believer in that, cultivating this environment where hands-on, like actually touching and working with your hands physically. If we can apply that at every age, so that by the time someone is, ready for their career, they've been exposed to how cool it is to build something with your hands. They've been exposed to seeing that people love their jobs no matter what they are. So I really think the bullets change. Just to go back to Linda's question, I think the bullets change depending on your audience as well as that age. But we do have a lot of resources, and I know we'll talk about that. My focus is a lot of the early elementary, but anytime we can show people that working with your hands is awesome and really build up the self-esteem is relevant at every age, kindergarten all the way through adulthood. So when you can really tap in skills to self-esteem, you're going to really connect with people.
Yeah, Terry Smith makes a great point here. She says she keeps seeing young women directed to interior design, but when she talks it through with them, she finds that they might enjoy project management or purchasing more. So yeah, I think you've got to figure out, it's kind of what Mollie said, figure out their skill set and what they're interested in, or how a skill they have in another industry will, translate to ours. And that's how we get more women in the industry.
Interesting to me as I go in and I do a SWOT analysis when I start working with a new builder, and I often find that people are in the wrong seats once I understand what their passions are, and that is one of those conversations. So I love that she brought this up about their passion is truly like that project management, or they really want to be an on-site superintendent, but they have been kind of, your customer service or design or, and I think the more we talk to business owners to consider those possibilities, that really find out where somebody's gifts are and forget the whole gender or anything else, any other limiting barrier. Let's really just focus on where those gifts are. On that though, Mollie, let's go back to something that you said. So starting in early, I think it is important that we talk about the education and that we kind of break through some of these stereotypes through the school system. So I think we have to start with our politicians with that. I think we have to start with our school boards with that. We have to talk about our guidance counselors and our curriculums that are offered in the school. And I know that there's a movement afoot to really work on this, but can you talk more about that? I know you've really been plugged in probably a little more than some of the rest of us.
So, I am a mom of a kindergartner, and there is something magical about kindergarten. I think, anyone who's had a kid who has ever been in kindergarten, you see this little tiny person kind of develop and learn and grow into who they're going to be. for me, getting in front of those kindergartners is just an incredible experience to see that these kids are curious. They already are creating positive associations with different subjects in school. It starts in kindergarten where people start saying, what's your favorite subject? That's a very common question with a child. They start to think, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this, especially for girls. In early elementary, we start to see girls' self-esteem drop, how girls view their, girls historically have decided I'm good at math or I'm not good at math. Like that starts in early elementary. So what we're trying to do is tap into that positive self-esteem in a way that shows them that, liking art isn't just being an artist. Liking art could be, you could apply that to architecture. You could apply that to interior design. You could apply that to landscaping. You can apply that in such a variety of ways. A kindergartner knows they like art, but they don't necessarily know that art could be cooking, art could be planting, art could be, they don't necessarily see that. So I think it's our job to change those stereotypes by getting in front of those young learners and getting them excited about all the different careers and opportunities.
Yeah, I think we, and that's something where I feel like our PWB movement could really have an impact if we, at our local level, at our core, if we made that one of our primary focuses, that to go out and actually get involved in our local school system, in our local school boards, and infiltrate, if you will.
And it's really powerful for us. So like when you get into, one individual can go into a classroom and read the house that she built to the group and do a hands-on activity or do a coloring page or something, but you see the kids look around the room. So everyone who's on here today, we're all sitting in a room. We forget that there's something behind the walls, and we're in this industry. You take your space for granted. And so when you get in front of a group of kindergartners and all of a sudden they're realizing, wait, there's a reason the toilet flushes. There's a reason that the lights are on. There is something behind the walls, and it's kind of like a puzzle. Their mind, just like you see it in their eyes, they light up. And it's the most rewarding feeling to see that. I have to share this story because it's so cute. I went to my daughter's class, and I always bring like the little construction vest and the little hard hats that are for kids, like they're more costumes. And I live in Philadelphia. So I went in on a Friday, and the next day we just went to a playground, and little kids were still wearing their hard hat and their vests, and their
I just got the chills.
So
cute. Yeah.
And they said they are just nuts about the book, and just, they love the construction vests and the hard hats, and they don't want to take it off. One kid even slept in his. So it's just so adorable. And you can buy those on Amazon. They're really, really inexpensive. Every time I do a book reading, I bring them. And the kids just really, they get into character. They really enjoy it.
My dogs like dressing up in it too, because I dress them up in construction outfits.
That's so funny. Well, I know that
I did a middle school and talked about, what are the different jobs that go into building a home, and showed pictures of people doing that and some video in some cases. And, when you start talking to kids about who like to play with trucks, and, who like to build with Legos, and it's amazing because it's not boy or girl. It was universal. Like everybody was like, yeah, absolutely. And they didn't realize all the different types of jobs there were. And it was one of the most fun presentations I've ever done, was to be able to go and talk to the middle school. And they asked me to do it, for several classes, not just for the class that I was signed up for. So we have this thing called the Great American Teach-In pre-pandemic. So now I'm hoping they'll bring it back and have the Great American Teach-In again.
Oh, that'd be great.
Alaina and I are both on the executive leadership team for the house that she built. And one of our objectives for the year is to just have free activities that anyone can do that are kindergarten all the way through middle school. So you have like an activity and an idea that you can go and work with any group of kids. It could be a birthday party, it could be a school, and just like make that accessible. So we've already started to build out some of it. Because that's what it's all about is all of us in the industry getting in front of kids of all ages and doing these hands-on activities and really talking to them about what we do and sharing real stories.
I love that. That's fantastic.
I think by elementary school and even by middle school, you're still having to undo some narratives that they've been told. You know, some sound bites or some stereotypes or some, no, you can do whatever you like. There is no exclusion to all of these jobs that we're talking about. But you have to undo some things.
Yeah,
and part of that comes, part of that, it is storytelling, and it's also breaking down that narrative that everybody must, in order to be successful, that you've got to go to a 4-year college. And, I think it was great that in the 70s, we started a PR campaign about going to a 4-year college, but we did it at the expense of everything else. And, we recently just had Mike Rowe at the International Builder Show, fantastic presentation about, how we have to undo a little bit of that and have people think that you're not less than because you're doing something with your hands.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's going to take decades, though. You think about it. So, Kimberly, you and I might have been kind of the last generation to have VOTEC in high school. It hasn't been there for, I don't want to say how many years, but, 10, 15, maybe 20 years. So, we've got people that never went through VOTEC, never learned to do anything with their hands. And so now, we've got a backfill. And I know there's a lot of great programs out there. I see Judy Donnell's on, and she's involved with Skills USA. And here in Georgia, the Atlanta Home Builders Association's involved with the Boys and Girls Clubs. And it's going to take everybody in the industry, reaching out on some level to other organizations and figuring out how do we, backfill the conversation and let them know that they're great jobs in our industry.
So, and I see the chat going.
The chat is just going.
Yeah. People want to get involved.
I want to add, because I keep thinking about Alaina in that pink hard hat, right? And that's what Mike Rowe was tapping into with his talk about workforce development. We have to tell the stories of people who are actually doing these jobs, because that woman who in the chat, someone said she thought she had to be in interior design. It's because she isn't seeing real women in all these other roles. So if you are a woman in these roles on a job site, share your content, go on social media, take pictures, because one kid is going to see that and they're going to know that that job is for everyone. So it's so important to share your stories. And, I love that so much.
I think
this isn't OSHA compliant, but people, this hard hat has a following.
Good.
You're not getting a nail through that sucker.
The stories are so important because they provide a possible path. I think one of the things that always happens at I keep pointing like this because when we're at a conference, one of the things that always happens is, how did you get here? How did you get here? And you're hearing these stories of like, well, how did we all find our way to here? And they're never alike. It's never like, oh, you're this path. Everybody's story is a little bit different. Everybody's story gives somebody an indication of, oh, I could do that. I could get there, and then I could get there. Or, I think the storytelling, I agree with Mollie 100%. I also, one of the things that Mollie and I, what made me, connect with her so easily is that I think we're both very aware of who's not in the room. When we're in a, and we're one of very few women, I'm always looking around like, are there people of color in the room? Are there people on the LGBTQ plus spectrum? Am I, who am I representing when I'm in this room? Am I just, I'm a cisgender hetero white woman, I can't, there are infinite amount of women that I cannot represent. Those voices we need to find ways and make space for those voices to get in the room.
I think we have to do that actively too. So I think that's kind of the challenge. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a challenge for all of us. I know whenever I have an opportunity to speak with someone, and that's something that I'm actively looking, can I reach out to someone who doesn't look like me, who's going to bring a different perspective, who comes from somewhere else, another country, or, where can I find those different voices? And one of the things, as I speak each year at the International Builder Show, I always try to bring somebody who hasn't spoken before. Melanie's on here. I see Melanie. I see you. I hear you. I got the
I've
opportunity
heard
to
Melanie
speak with
speak.
her.
She's awesome.
I love
Yeah.
Isn't she
Melanie.
amazing? Oh, it was so much fun. So, she and Linda's on here with us, and she and Linda and I spoke together, and it was a really great conversation, because again, everybody comes with a different path. Everybody brings something different. So my challenge, I guess, for everybody on here would be find your voice.
Mhm.
And figure out a way that you can incorporate this into your company, or that you can talk to people about it. And maybe as white women, we're maybe a little more intimidated to talk about it, because we feel like we don't walk in those shoes, and we can't, but I think we kind of can. I mean, not that I can walk in anybody else's shoes, but I can at least talk about it.
Mhm.
I like to talk about who's not in the room.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all I have to say.
Well-
My perspective, but we are missing some narratives in the room that we don't have a full understanding of the situation if we don't have those voices in the room.
Yeah. And I think as white women, I think we have to talk about it, but we also have to recognize that it's a group of white women. So I know for me, like I talk very openly about this. I am very aware of this and who's in the room, and I still have a hard time hiring. It's still something that is like constantly trying to learn and shift and change things. So knowing that and coming at it from a place of like, we don't know the answers. We just know that people aren't in the room who should be. So it's not like, obviously if this was an easy fix, it would have been fixed already.
Right.
So part of why the house that she built came to be, the storybook and representation in the book is done the way it is because I know for me, I don't know if you can undo, but I know if we show kids people that they connect to, that that will have a long-term effect. So the idea is for any child to pick up the book and see someone they connect with. So even though it is called The House That She Built, if you look at the wording on the back, it says very clearly this is for all kids, he, she, and they. And that's important because it is for all kids. This is about inclusivity, not just girls. So I think just having the conversations is super important.
Knowing that most of us probably got the jobs that we got because we knew somebody, what are those barriers of entry for people that maybe we have to go about knowing people in a different way? We as business owners maybe need to network differently, or find ways of connecting to groups and people who are different from us as we go about hiring. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think about that? And how do you think we could even go about it?
I think you have to actively seek out people who are different than you, and connect genuinely.
Yeah.
To understand, to amplify, to introduce, and to get out of the way. I mean, that's my role, is to figure out what I can learn, how I can understand better, and then how to incorporate this into how I move forward. But yeah, I think it's actively seeking out people who are different than you and who think differently. For me, I'll share a personal story. And when I first started out building, the Home Builders Association was just a bunch of old white men. That's what it felt like to me. Okay. And I was youngish. I was around 30. And then it was one of those things where I kept criticizing it. Like, they don't look like me. They don't look like me. And then finally I had that moment where I was like, stop complaining and get in there. If I don't see myself in there, then I just need to make myself away. And next year I'll be president of the Home Builders Association in Raleigh, in the HBA Raleigh Wake. And I'm the 4th. And right after me is another woman, Christy Beck. She's the 5th. And it's important. You gotta, if you don't see someone there, you gotta get in there. And that there's so far to go. And there's probably a quarter of the board, I would say, are women. And it's not very diverse yet. It's getting better. But you got to do the work. You got to get in there and you got to make space and you got to find a way.
I saw something on LinkedIn recently that really resonated with me. It was a post that basically said, when we're hiring, if we come from the standpoint of that person will fit in, or I want to hang out with that person, that can be really problematic because we tend to organically surround ourselves with people who are like us. The way, I fully admit this has been a true challenge for me and something I've struggled with. So I finally decided we're going to bring in a recruiter who specializes in, really sourcing in a different way. And I think it's a little more expensive to hire through a recruiter, but for to start making some real change, it's something that's worth investing in because we do have this mindset of, are they gonna fit in here? And that unconscious bias is that, it takes over.
Right.
It's genuinely human nature. And I catch myself doing it all the time.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I got a lot of flack for a long time because we were an all-female team, but we kept trying to hire men and they kept not working out. I do have a man on my staff right now and he's phenomenal. And he's also of color, but we hired him because he was the right person for the job, not for any other reason. But, thinking about women, and yes, we are all white women here, but I think women by our nature are more inclusive. So I think sometimes just getting, those women in the company to start recruiting and opening the company up to other people of, other colors, other nationalities, other, everything we've talked about, I think women are a huge part of the solution, whether we're, white, whether we're Black, whether we're Hispanic. I think we're more inclusive in general in many ways.
I don't know about that, but I do think we know what it feels like to be othered.
Maybe that's it. Yep.
Yeah.
There's some compassion, maybe for a personal experience, but I'm sensitive to others.
Others, yes.
Who feel othered. Because, that feeling of walking into a room, and I've done it, when you walk into a room and you're the only woman in that room, and I'm also short, which really doesn't help me.
Yeah.
And it's, I have this, this mantra that I tell myself. It's like head up, shoulders back, look them straight in the eye, shake their hand and tell them exactly who you are. And that's, you have to do that. There is a moment of I'm going to hold space for me. Right. And that's, we know what that feels like.
And
really
being able
strong.
to be aware of that, Alaina, and then mentor someone else. I was working with a Gen Z earlier this morning, and that was something, she sells to active adults, and she's Gen Z, and she runs into that. What do you know? You're a girl, you're young, and I had to actually mentor her in that. She's like, I don't want to be a jerk. And I'm like, standing up for yourself and owning your space and your bubble around you isn't being a jerk. It's having self-love.
There's so many
and she
isms.
hadn't thought about it that way.
There's so many isms, ageisms, and we had to name it in our company at Garmin. We were like, stop making references and say you're too young. You're too young to remember that. Stop demeaning our younger employees in this umbrella of self-deprecation. It doesn't empower them for you to. What if they were like, you won't get this, you're too old.
And they do, and that's another thing. Maybe we should just appreciate that.
It does not invite genuine connection to reduce someone to some soundbite of who you think they are. And it's better to stay curious and let them reveal who they are by earning it through a genuine relationship and connection.
I love this idea you said of otherness, right? Otherness is the thing that connects all of us. So whether it's being a woman or feeling like you're the shortest person in the room, or your religion, or what you like to do on a Friday night, personality, I do think if you go really deep with this idea of otherness, like that is something that connects us on a very like human level. I don't know. I feel like that
Absolutely.
could be a whole,
I like that.
I'm really into it.
Yeah.
I want to like take a turn here. So something that I read recently was that when you do reach out and you start to hire people who maybe don't fit the traditional mold in your company, and you start to make some changes, you obviously, we typically start with one person, is not making that person your token go-to,
Correct.
Yeah.
and that you can go too far in maybe being well-meaning,
Mhm.
but you're really making that person feel like, hey, I am other. I am. I'm here, but I'm not here.
That's a lot of emotional labor to put on
That's
that
a
person.
lot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So any suggestions on how to maybe avoid that sort of pitfall, or from the audience here, guys, chime in. How do you feel about that sort of thing?
I think Mollie's point about seeking someone outside your organization to help you is really important. That is some of the best money you'll ever spend. You're investing in everyone in that room. Like when we formed our advisory board, and I told my husband, I was like, I will not be the only woman in that room. You can't expect me to represent an entire gender.
I have to share a story. So one of the big supporters of the house that she built, we have 84 Lumber and Anderson. They, funded the printing of the book when we first had the idea. Anderson has an entire like DEI team that I got to meet in person. And one of the things that I did with my team is I asked if someone from their DEI team would come and do a lunch and learn, or just talk about what it looks like at their organization, because they do it really well. So I think that's like, again, going outside of your organization and showing that this is important to you, and like coming back to intent so that your team member doesn't feel other. They know that you see them and you want to do right by them, and that you're going to a larger pool of influencers and people who may have more resources. And as soon as I asked them, they were like, yes, absolutely. We would love to be a part of that. So
Great.
that ask people, ask for help. I mean, I think that's like another thing is you don't have to have all the answers. You just talk to people.
We do sort of live in our own little bubbles. And I think that's a really great point, that yes, we need to, reach out to others. And I know, Judy's always very generous in sharing what's happening at 84 and meeting their team. That's they are tremendous with.
I'm already president of the
doing.
Judy fan club. You can't have my spot.
Yeah.
I declared it. Judy,
Yeah.
I'm the fan club president. I followed her around at the builder show just so I could like learn.
And there's very few people who don't know her. So if you don't, you can reach out to me. I will be happy to connect you with her, because she's incredible. So what about other resources? And as we're getting a little closer to the top of the hour, audience, please chime in. Resources that you've used and articles that you've read, please share. And what are some resources or guiding principles that you've used, ladies?
So I use PWB resources. I use just like trying to make like that real like human connection and connect with people. I also love learning about how other businesses do things. So like, I think just like an open curiosity of like, how would they handle this? Like Alaina, every time you talk, I take away something from the conversation, and like, your experience is different than mine. We live in different places and we have different companies. So, for me, the resources, the real people, and we have this incredible network already. I mean, think about this group that we have in the industry. All of us have connections outside of the industry. So just really taking advantage of that, I think, is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think what you said earlier, Mollie, is so true. Like that we kind of, maybe somebody else said it, but we're so supportive of each other. Like when I see another woman in the industry, I practically like surprise tackle her. Like, who are you? Where are you from? What are you do? Let's be friends. And I'm so excited to learn what they're doing and how they got there, and their story, and just looking at ways that we can learn from each other. And there's a woman Tasha Jones, who used to be in marketing for the neighborhood now known as Central Park in Denver, used to be known as Stapleton. And so she is doing DEI training, and she is amazing. And these are, you just meet women within the industry and you kind of hold on to them. You're like, okay, now we're like, you like Judy, you're like, Judy, get on this arm, Mollie, get on this arm, No, it's really important to keep track of those people that you learn from. And like, I mean, Anya's here, Angela McKay, all those people, Meredith Chapman, all those people, and make those your actual friends in social media spaces. You can learn a lot about a person, and we learn how to support each other on and off the field, in our conference rooms, in our workspaces, but understanding that, you have to have a conversation about imposter syndrome sometime, or, I'm so mad this just happened. I was on a call one time with a guy who just kept talking about builders as men, as the guys. And I was so triggered. And I just had to like call someone and scream about it, and it was, I'm right there on the call, just being completely dismissed. And these are the women I reach out to, because we've all had an experience, and it's just better to surround yourself with people who are more supportive than that, who understand and get it and allow you the space to move on, to vent, and then keep going. We have work to do.
We have to have that space to vent. Yeah, everybody needs a safe space. So I started looking at some, as I was getting prepared for this, and I found this Women in Construction group. It's fantastic. Like sometimes, certainly, language and very colorful stories, but real, like very real and very genuine. There's another Instagram page, their Instagram group that I follow, Black Women in Construction. Hilarious. I mean, again, very real, very raw sometimes, but hilarious. Like you can just relate to this stuff and understand. So I'm actively searching out experiences that are different than my own, just to seek that better understanding.
And that's a good way to break the divide between blue collar and white collar as well. We didn't even get into that.
Right.
There is still a really big divide, and that's a big opportunity ahead of us. But when you're talking about like WINC and NAWIC and, some of these organizations that they have the same initiatives as PWB, but they're more on like actively on job sites or doing the trades. Like we do still have a ways to go in kind of creating that bridge, but I follow all of those too. They're great.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be cool if we had this like summit?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And brought everybody from all of, from all the different, that would be fantastic.
Great idea.
So somebody get on that. We need somebody, professional builder to like work on that one. So PWB, Judy's singing the praises of PWB. If you're not in PWB, I will do a shout out. Carol tapped me on the shoulder years ago and said, you need to join PWB. I don't have a local.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Join nationally.
You can join at large. And still reap the rewards from it. And of course, if you ever need anything at your local HBA, or you want to grow your HBA, PWB. Like, that's that, to me, that's the council that's the group that you get to start growing things and really change things up. Now, I know I just said change things up, and change is scary for some people in HBA land, but it can be for it. Can
Change
be
is
for
good. Change is good.
Change can absolutely be for good.
And Alaina, you just said, make them your real friends. So like,
right.
that is what makes PWB valuable. Like when I first heard about it, I didn't know if there was a spot for me, because it felt like, I have so much work going on. I don't have time for more stuff. But what happens is when this becomes your group of real friends, it just makes your work life even better. It makes you more passionate about the work you're doing. It creates like, it's not work anymore. So there's just so much benefit.
And it's a great sounding board, within PWB, whether it's locally or whether it's nationally. If you have a question about something, there is an answer. I can't tell you how many times I pick up the phone and call somebody, in Seattle or California or Pennsylvania or wherever it is, and say, hey, have you ever experienced, blah, and gotten a great answer and support, and, Mentorship.
Just saying, help me out. Yeah. When I first met Alaina, like I have to confess, I was a little fangirlish. So like I'd seen her on social media, and then I meet her at the builder show, and I was like, hi, you're Alaina. And she knew me too. Like, she's like, you're Kimberly. I was like, oh my God, I'm like fangirling here. Like, it was awesome.
Hysterical. That's so funny.
I think we were walking into a restroom too on top of it.
Sure, yeah. I had the same thing with Mollie. I was like, I know who you are.
I'm pretty sure I tackled you though. I'm just gonna put that out there. When I saw you at the builder show, it was like a slow run across the hallway. Like I really went in for it.
Hysterical.
So I'm grateful that I think I knew Mollie before she was this big famous author. So like that, I was like, I knew her when. Yeah. I knew her before that. I've even met her dad, and he's pretty funny too. So yeah, it you know, take this back to your local home builders. Ladies, get involved. Fellas, thank you for the fellas who joined us today. I see that we've got a good group of guys on here, and you know, thanks for
all
listening.
the men who make space for women in rooms where there's a lot of men that speak up for a lot of people who aren't in the room sometimes, and they're very vocal and supportive, and I know they're out there.
They are absolutely out there. Yep.
And it outweighs those challenges that we do get hit with. But you know what? I think conversations like this, I think having those conversations back at your local, and you know, and again, reach out, try to find something that's a little different, that's a shared experience, but slightly different than yours, and just broadens all of our horizons.
Absolutely.
So this is a conversation I would love to keep going. I think, and I think we should definitely continue it in Sales and Marketing Power Hour. And ladies, you guys, I couldn't think of any two better people. Like when Carol and I first started talking about it, I was like, Mollie and Alaina, like that was the first two names that came to mind. I was like, that's who we have to get. So there's a whole list of people that we certainly could have reached out to, but you guys were definitely top of mind here. And
thank you.
And thanks to all the rest of you out there for the little things and the big things that you're doing to make a difference, because it matters.
And all the great webinar chat today. Thank you all for chiming in, and lots of great comments and content there. So
yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, I'll make sure I share a lot in the show notes, and of course we'll get the recording out in case you missed something or joined us late, or so we'll get all of that out to everybody. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your week.